Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, I'm going to take you through all the steps to pull your Fj60 Dash out because you might need to switch it out because yours is cracked or you need access to something that's under the dash pad. So raise your hand if your dash is cracked. Yeah, mine's too. Probably cracks across the board on these old Landcruisers. And they look something like this when they're done cracking. So I'm going to take you through all the steps, all the tools you need to get the dash out, and trust me, it's something you can do at home and it's really not that hard. If you're a Landcruiser guy, you probably already know that these dashes have been discontinued by Toyota and are slowly becoming a unicorn part to find it in uncracked, excellent condition. I was lucky enough to track one down, so we're going to go ahead and put it in my truck Nora that's behind me. I want to review the only tools that you need to get this job done is these two right here. This is your standard Phillips screwdriver as well as a ratcheting wrench, 10mm. So we're going to go ahead and use these two tools to pull out my old dash and successfully put this dash in today. Before we start ripping into the dash, I want to go through the different areas that we're going to be focusing on as we take the dash apart. First area is that there are two screws on this edge of the dash pad. This screw will have to come out. The gauge cluster will have to come out. This is just held in by several screws. The AC bezel will have to come out, as well as the ashtray. There are some screws behind the ashtray that need to come out. The glove box is all going to have to come off, as well as the insert that's inside the glove box will have to come out in order to get access to the bolts that actually hold the dash to the inside of the truck. I'm going to go ahead and start with the AC bezel. There are 7 screws on the outside of the bezel that need to come out. So we're going to go ahead and pull those out. They look a little bit like this, if you can see. All the screws that go into the dash are all like this, except for the 2 ones on the very end of the dash, which I'll show you when we get to that point what those actually look like. So let's go ahead and take all those screws out. Once your bezel screws are pulled out, you want to go ahead and remove your ashtray. There are 2 additional screws that are hiding under here that need to be pulled out as well before the bezel will drop free. Also note that these 2 climate control knobs need to be pulled forward to take them off because it makes it a lot easier to pull the bezel off so you don't crack it in the process. I do want to caution that when all this stuff goes back together, when you're finally finished putting in your new dash or taking it off, that these bezel screws will easily crack this 30-year-old plastic. So be careful and don't put too much torque down on these screws when you go to put it back together. Once the AC bezel is disconnected from the dash, we want to move over to the steering wheel and gauge cluster. We're going to pull the steering wheel to its lowest position so we can have access to the 5 screws that hold the cluster to the actual dash. Once these screws come out, the cluster should fall free enough for you to get access to the 2 bolts that we're gonna have to take out a little later. But if you need more access, you can take the speedo cable that kind of makes it hug the dash off and the entire cluster will drop free. Once the gauge cluster is all pulled free, as you can see here, we want to move over to 2 screws that exist on both sides of the dash right here. Don't need to worry about this top screw as much, but we want to go ahead and take this out as well as this screw as well. Now we're gonna move over to the glove box and glove box insert. There are 7 screws that need to come out and 1 nut that needs to come off in order for all of that stuff to drop free and out of the dash. This is the latch for the glove box. As seen here, it has 2 special screws, so make sure not to mix them up with the other dash screws when you go to put it back together. The glove box light needs to be disconnected by either pulling it out of the box insert hole or disconnecting it from the harness. I opted to pull it from the harness. Very important when you go to reinstall the latch shown here to screw it in with the flat end facing the closing door. If you do not do this, the glove box door will have a hard time latching. Now it's time to remove the 4 nuts that are located under the dash that hold it to the physical truck. We're going to be switching tools to this 10mm wrench with the ratcheting and swivel top, as this wrench makes it very easy to get to these nuts that are located under here. So one of the nuts on the passenger side is located right about here under the dash, and the other one is right about here. To give you an idea, again, I couldn't get the best footage of showing you where those are. It's gonna take a little practice to find them, but they look a little bit like this, and they have a little jut out of a bolt that comes out of the actual dash. All right, it's time to lift this old dash out of here. A couple last minute notes before we do that though, is that depending on how your radio is wired and attached to your dash, you may want to go ahead and pull that out and disconnect it. I know that when I originally put this radio in, I did attach it to the dash, so it will come out with the dash so I can switch it over to the new one. Also note that the vents on either side of the truck do have hoses that are pinched on, so you do need to just pinch and pull those away from the dash before it will come up. Also note that when you do it, pull the dash out, it needs to go up and out. There are 2 clips that clip onto the back of this metal piece back here, and that's what actually holds it there at this point. So let's go ahead and do that. So yay, you got your dash out. At this point, before the new dash goes in, I would suggest maybe doing some cleaning in these hard to reach places. As you can see, my dash is a mess, and I took full advantage of that and was able to clean it all up before the new dash goes in. Well, there you have it. The new Fj60 Dash is all installed. I think it looks excellent. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll do my best to answer what I can as you move through your own process of putting one of these in your own truck. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, like and share these videos as it keeps me motivated to keep on getting out here and showing you how to do stuff like this. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.